What if one of the most famous paintings in the world isn't what it seems? It's called The Night Watch, but is it really a night scene? And is that even the painting's real name? We're looking at a city square full of people. The genre? Dutch group military portrait. There are multiple light sources, dramatic shadows, and two glowing central figures. In the 1600s, there weren't exactly any boom arms swinging spotlights over the scene. So what's going on here? Creative license? Chiaroscuro? Rembrandt was a master of light and shadow. Bold contrasts, dark voids, glowing skin, drama carved from paint. It wasn't unusual for him to bend the rules, and like in graphic design, you can only break the rules when you know them, and do it well. Before we get too far, take a moment to visit the Whispering Gallery Facebook page or our Patreon page for the podcast, so you can look at the painting yourself. On Facebook at Whispering Gallery Stories, and on Patreon at Patreon/Whispering Gallery. The Night Watch. It shows 34 individual figures, 18 of them militiamen, gathering before they start marching for a parade. Aside from Monet's water lilies, or some epic murals I've seen, it's one of the largest traditional paintings I know of. I guess there's Jackson Pollock's Lilac Mist, too, but there's a lot going on. Gun barrels, spear poles, glowing faces, thick shadows, and a mysterious golden-haired girl. I've heard her called the Glowing Girl. Are the men guarding something? Patrolling the city at night? The painting's often lumped in with other Dutch Golden Age militia portraits, but it doesn't look much like them. Most of those show stiff, formal men packed around a banquet table in a tight, airless room. Kind of like a yearbook photo for their militia club. Nobody smile, nobody say cheese. Just serious gentlemen being serious. The established look of the time. But the Night Watch? Technically, it's a noun, right? A painting, a thing. But over time, it's taken on a strange life of its own. Paint has darkened. Pigments have degraded. For example, that little dog in the corner, bottom right, startled by the drummer, isn't quite what Rembrandt painted anymore. Parts of the image have faded into mystery. So while the Night Watch isn't a verb, the painting acts like one. It moves, it shifts. Maybe it even watches. Let's approach the painting. It's enormous, about the size of an RV garage door, the kind that can fit a Winnebago. At 11 feet 9 inches tall and 14 feet 3 inches wide, it looms. And it doesn't just sit quietly on the wall, it confronts you. There's a crowd of 32 figures in total. 18 of them were militiamen, and they're the reason this portrait was commissioned. It was meant to show them preparing for a parade. Talk about an ambitious group portrait. Down in the bottom right, there's a drummer, and next to him a dog. Now, it's not that the dog didn't matter. In fact, he's one of the unique points of the piece. Over time, the painting darkened and then was abraded during cleaning, revealing more of the chalk-rich paint sketch underneath. The dog was startled by the drum, it seems. Now he's a blur of fur and surprise. Dogs are very much allowed at the Whispering Gallery, and they are invited to join us in the halls of our spooky museum. If you bring your dog, I'll have to ask, "Can I pet that dog?" Here at the Whispering Gallery, we always pay attention to the dogs, so naturally we have questions. What breed was this dog in the painting? Now, I don't know if I'm saying it correct, but maybe a Braunschweig Terrier? Or some early ancestor of an American bully? He's wearing a studded collar, not with spikes, but with small, spaced metal dots. Protection? Or decoration? Either way, it's a little bridge across the centuries. He or she might have been a very good dog to be at the parade. Back to the painting itself. There are 3 main pools of light that catch your eye. The glowing girl is just off-center, behind the 2 central men. Her face and dress are lit as though by a shaft of golden light, like she's standing in a pool of sunlight from another world. Next, the man in cream tones, front and center. His face and hand are lit. He's holding a spear bedazzled with a tassel, so he's lit and defined, a dramatic contrast to the darker figure beside him dressed in black, with a red sash, face also in focus, and his outstretched hand is also lit. The last of the 3, our friend the drummer, spotlighted, or rather his drum is, with the full attention of the dog. Is he attempting to shift the drum between him and the dog? Did the painter have a sense of humor? Many of the other faces are visible, but not all. One man in red is loading his musket, maybe a clover, the Dutch name for a type of musket. His feathered hat tipped just so with velvet folds catching the light. There's a figure to the far left, shadowed and running out of the scene. It's difficult to see, but he appears smaller than the rest. Is he a child? A little person? He wears a kind of helmet and may be carrying a hand organ. Another musician, perhaps? Yes, we've said men a lot. This painting is almost entirely male, with one major exception, the glowing girl. Possibly 2 girls, if you count the figure behind her. It's been suggested the glowing girl is kind of a mascot for the group. Her presence is one of the mysteries. There's a chicken, dead, and it's hanging from her waist at her belt from its claws. Is this a clue? The men hold spears and guns and flags and halberds. There are plenty of strong lines pulling your eye across the painting. The man in cream even has a tassel, the one we mentioned, hanging from just below the sharp point of his spear. Not exactly battlefield gear with the tassel, ceremonial? And look behind them. A man stands tall above the rest, holding out a bright flag, his gaze lifted as if he's looking toward the future. He's flanked by men in helmets, and wait, a top hat? Someone is wearing a top hat in 1642? Via AmericanHatmakers.com.
Anyway, if you go on a date...
The origins of the top hat. It is believed that the top hat was inspired by earlier tall hat styles of the 16th and 17th centuries. These include the capitaine, sugarloaf, and pilgrim hats. Around the 1770s, higher-crowned, dark felt hats with wide brims started to be worn with country leisure wear. By the 1790s, the black top hat had emerged and gained popularity in the upper and middle classes. They had replaced the previously popular trickhorn, pirate-style, and bicorn hats.
Back to the painting. At first glance, the scene feels like an open courtyard. Sorry for the extra noise in the background. We have our little foster dozer who comes and goes, and I'm recording at the kitchen table today. So, Shotzi is on my lap. You may hear her shake her head and flip her ears. You may hear little tags. Anyway, Boomer is here too, Dozer and Shotzi, so we are recording together. At first glance, the scene feels like an open courtyard, but if you look closer, the floor is stone and a shadowy column rises behind them. Maybe they're indoors, or stepping out of an interior into the light. The ambiguity is kind of part of the drama. You could argue the window is letting out lamplight onto the street below, or if inside, letting in sunshine where the glowing girl is standing. Let's step outside the canvas for a moment. The night watch hangs in the Rijksmuseum, the National Museum of the Netherlands, located at Museumstraat in Amsterdam. The building was completed in 1885, and the painting sits in its rightful place of honor on the second floor. The Rijksmuseum is a palace-like museum of Dutch art with over 8,000 works of art. It holds the largest collection of Rembrandts in the world, and it's also home to some paintings you might already know, even if you don't realize it. Think of Van Gogh's self-portrait, the one where he's wearing a fedora and is looking right out at you. Or The Milkmaid by Vermeer, in her crisp white bonnet, stopped mid-pour, balancing that perfect stream of milk. And then there's the image of a swan defending its nest from a dog. If you haven't seen it, it's worth a gander. Goose joke intended. It's called The Threatened Swan by Jan Asselijn. I'll spell it. Asselijn. Now, a fun fact. The Rijksmuseum has a road running through the middle of it. The public access route under the building is open to cyclists and pedestrians, but not to cars. So if you're planning to visit, be prepared to walk the final stretch. There's a kiss and ride drop-off point about 328 feet from the entrance to the museum. I love that, kiss and ride. Very cute. Let's jump ahead in time from 1642 to 2013. On April 1st of 2013, Dutch shoppers in a quiet mall were jolted out of their routine when a flash mob of actors dressed in 17th century garb suddenly sprang to life. In full costume, they reenacted a possible scene from The Night Watch. Leaping into the crowd with muskets, drums, and banners held high, their rallying cry echoed through the mall. Onze held is sein Troef. Yeah, I know that just rolled off the tongue. Our heroes are back. The stunt was designed to celebrate the Night Watch's return to the museum after a major restoration. All of the actors ended up together, and a frame dropped down right in front of them to frame their group for an epic finale. Fun and clever, theatrical, and maybe more than a little flamboyant. Kind of fun to shake up the status quo. So what if they weren't just heroes? What if this wasn't simply a civic portrait? A militia group captured in a moment in time for the clubhouse? And what if Rembrandt ditched the creative brief and decided to do what he wanted to do? Would he still get paid? Could he have had his own agenda? Could he have made such a standout painting of the militia to prove a point or point out a truth? To do the right thing? What if The Night Watch was a painted accusation, a visual j'accuse? In 2008, Peter Greenaway's documentary Rembrandt's J'accuse laid out the idea of the painting as a theatrical trap laid in oil and pigment. Let's walk into the gallery. Captain Franz Bannekock and his Lieutenant William van Ruytenberg stand illuminated. Behind them, a musket, fired. Smoke still curling up from the barrel, a literal smoking gun. Was the placement important? Why were the man in black and the cream-clad man up near the front of the painting? There are multiple unnatural light sources in the scene. Why was the painting cropped in 1715, and what might have been lost? Why was the painting attacked, defaced, and restored again and again? And let's not forget the lingering rumor. Was the painting's composition an accusation of murder? Was it Rembrandt being overdramatic? No, that could never be. Or was this something darker? In this episode, we'll explore how this was painted after the mysterious death, possible assassination of Captain Piers Hasselberg. Was Rembrandt embedding clues in plain sight? Are the murderers front and center in the painting? Flashlight flickering? Gunpowder in the air. Settle in. Button up your cardigan. Pour yourself a mug of tea. Make that a travel mug. Maybe Earl Grey double bergamot with a touch of milk and sugar. And follow me into the shadows. because we are about to ask, who done it? Good evening and welcome back to the spooky halls of the Whispering Gallery with me, Suzanne Nicolaisen, and as mentioned, Shotzi, Boomer, and our foster Chewini, Dozer. Tonight's tale has all the good stuff. A painter on contract who went rogue, a sudden shakeup of leadership caused by the death of a leader, and a militia portrait that somehow twisted into a charged public gathering full of tension, symbols, and secrets. Set your phone down. We're heading to 1600s Amsterdam. It's all snail mail and candlelight from here on out. I didn't stumble onto the first clue until Boomer and Shotzi were curled into their pre-bedtime naps. The news was humming in the background about terrible things happening, people in masks, kidnappings, and missing people. My sweet tea had finally acclimatized with the sugar deciding to blend in and contribute. Stark contrasts. These were the conditions for slipping through a crack in time. That's when I pressed play on Rembrandt's J'ai Accuse by Peter Greenaway, his 2008 documentary. The screen flickered to life. Actors stepped out of the shadow. A voice began to unravel not just the painting, but a possibility. That Rembrandt van Rijn, beloved master of chiaroscuro, wasn't just fooling around, capturing your average militia portraiture. A civic moment in the night watch, he was sounding an alarm, making a painted accusation. A whisper of murder, coded in brushstroke and composition. Not really what the militia had paid him to do. Let's go back. The year is 1642. The commissioned painting was supposed to be another formal militia group portrait, a little stiff, a little serious, a little same ol'. But then things changed. Leadership changed, the painting changed, and Rembrandt, he ignored the creative brief. Instead of a lineup of stern-faced men posed at a table, he gave them a scene bursting with motion and mystery. Maybe it's not what you first saw when you saw the painting? It's not what I first saw when I saw the painting. After studying the art a little more and the surrounding circumstances, an unconfirmed theory, make that conspiracy theory? As you start looking a little deeper at the details, you can at least see where the theories came from. Rembrandt transformed it into something closer to a public gathering with a gun just fired, a glow around a girl, and figures stepping forward like actors on a stage. We'll be doing a little armchair tourism tonight. For most of us, that means hopping the Atlantic to the Netherlands and blurring the edges of time just a little. These were the heroes of the city, protectors of the people. They kept the peace, guarded the gates, put out the fires, and sometimes they liked a little flair. Think Three Musketeers, with a touch of civic duty. Back to the painting, and back to 17th century life. Now picture life back then. Lace collars, or ruffs, velvet cloaks, oil lamps flickering. How much reading or painting could you really do after the sun went down? By the mid-1600s, the Dutch had a plan. Street lanterns, lit with linseed or rapeseed oil, were introduced to Amsterdam. Thanks to a painter named Jan van der Heyden, the city wasn't found in shadows. In fact, back in the 1500s, it was law that anyone out at night had to carry a lantern. Nobody could sneak up on you then, or surprise the crap out of you. So, inside, illumination came from firelight, rushlights, tallow candles or oil lamps, not exactly studio-grade conditions. Matching colors painted in daylight to what you'd see under candlelight? Risky business as far as trying to match colors, especially since some painting ingredients are flammable. So yes, painting by night was kind of a hazard, but investigating by flashlight? Perfectly safe, and maybe just what we need. Speaking of a glowing light, how did Rembrandt pull off the glow in his paintings? Not everybody could pull this off. Was it technique, talent, luck, or maybe science? Via the Smithsonian magazine, the title New Analysis shows the Dutch master added lead carbonate plumbonacrite to his impasto mix.
Via the Smithsonian magazine, the composition, technique. Title, New Analysis shows the Dutch master added lead carbonate plumbonacrite to his impasto mix. Artists are constantly using new pigments and oils to produce more vibrant, luminous, and interesting colors. Rembrandt van Rijn was no different. The Dutch old master had technique, creativity, and painstaking labor going for him. He also had chemistry. A new analysis of his works shows he used a rare compound in some of his paints, which helped him pull off his signature impasto technique, Henri Nieuwendorf at ArtNet News reports. Side note, Google AI explains about impasto. Impasto is a painting technique where paint is applied in thick layers, creating a textured surface where brushstrokes or palette knife marks are visible. This technique adds dimension and depth to a painting, making it appear as if the paint is protruding from the canvas. Impasto is often used in oil and acrylic painting. Historians already knew that Rembrandt used readily available compounds such as lead white pigment and oils like linseed oil to make the paste-like paints he piled in thick layers to give his work a three-dimensional appearance. When a team of researchers from the Netherlands and France subjected tiny paint samples from three of his best-known works, Portrait of Martin Solmans, Bathsheba, and Susanna, to X-ray analysis at the European synchrotron in Grenoble, France, however, they detected another compound they weren't expecting, a lead carbonate mineral called plumbonacrite, Pb5CO3-3OOH. The finding in his impasto mix was especially surprising since plumbonacrite is generally found in 20th century works onward, though it did pop up in a sample of a Vincent van Gogh red lead pigment sampled from Wheat Stack Under a Cloudy Sky, 1889. That being said, Rembrandt was painting in the first half of the 1600s. Google AI said, plumbonacrite is a rare, pearly, white to colorless lead carbonate mineral with the chemical formula Pb5CO3-3OH2. It's known for its unique formation and has been found in paintings by Rembrandt van Rijn, Vincent van Gogh, and Leonardo da Vinci. Rembrandt used chalk and ground up glass for drying properties, also linseed and walnut oil, and layer. Via art renewal, Rembrandt working from back to front rather than working over the whole picture at once. He exploited to the fullest the qualities of transparency and opacity, relying on the underglow of light coming through transparent color for many special effects, with opaque lights built up more heavily for the brightly lit areas, their colors sometimes modified by subtle glazes, semi-glazes or scumbles, and the arrangement of transparent darks and opaque lights to play against one another for maximum visual impact.
So in technique, he would build from the bottom up, playing with light and transparency. The Night Watch, full title, Militia Company of District 2, under the command of Captain Frans Bannekock, finished in 1642, was at the height of the Dutch Golden Age. It's a beast of a painting more than 12 feet high and nearly 15 feet wide, and yet somehow it invites you in. The shadows flicker. The faces shift. Something about it feels unsettled. Did you know paintings change colors? Not just being bleached in the sunlight. And then there's the infamous crop in 1715 to fit the town hall. The painting lost nearly 3 feet from the top and 7 to 12 centimeters from the sides, and most likely the lost figures include 2 militiamen, a young boy, plus architectural framing. AI reconstructions attempted to digitally restore the lost edges. Let's hit pause here because wow, that was a lot of mystery, shadow, and Dutch drama to cram into one episode. I've been buried in this beast of a story since our last episode with the Mothman, or rather, the art of the Mothman. Next time, we'll dive into the painting that wasn't quite what they ordered. More of Rembrandt's Wild Ride, and yes, that oddly compelling coloring page that's not just for kids, but for curious grown-ups like you, who can't resist a good, unsolved art mystery. Thanks for stepping into the Whispering Gallery and into the strange shimmer of the Dutch Golden Age. Until next time, keep your rough starched and your lantern lit, and your theories weirder than ever. And don't forget to keep your flashlight close and your spooky art stories closer when visiting the Whispering Gallery. Take care. Shotzi is snoozing beside me, and Dozer is getting ready to sleep. He just curled up in a ball. Boomer is out in the family room, and now, before we go fumbling around in the dark for dropped flashlights or start whispering, Rembrandt, to see if anyone answers, here's a few quick things. If you liked this episode, I'd love it if you could tell a friend, leave a comment, or give it a little love wherever you're listening. Word of mouth is how this strange little gallery will grow. You can find me and possibly a dachshund over at facebook.com/whisperinggallerystories or on TikTok at Suznick, where I sometimes post haunted tidbits and dog sightings, and a little bit about the foster dogs and my dogs. If you'd like to support the podcast and help keep the gallery candles from flickering out, you can join our tiny but mighty Patreon at patreon.com/c/whisperinggallery. Here's a peek at what's inside. First tier is the Midnight Explorers Club. It's a $1 a month, gets you ad-free episodes, reading lists and behind-the-scenes notes, tea and cookie pairings, real ones, and other curiosities from the dusty corners of art history. Now, the other tier we have right now is Bedtime at the Museum, available for $5 a month. It's for those of you who like your stories dreamy, sleepy, and just the right amount of eerie. I'll be reading haunted tales, artist letters, artist obituaries, and possibly playing a bit of Chopin, if the piano and my fingers cooperate. Our soft launch of the Whispering Gallery Colorist Society is coming up on Sunday, August 3rd at 7 o'clock p.m. Mountain Standard Time. It's kind of a meditative art night. If you're using the coloring page off of Patreon, you can think more tulips, less pressure. I'll post the calendar link on the Facebook page and Patreon if you'd like to join. This would be a free event, and it's really like taking just a minute to spend with your art, your sketchbook, or coloring pages of your choice, and we hang out together. It's fairly quiet. It gives us a minute to chill out, kind of intent focus for a minute. One thing I wanted to talk to you about is on the Patreon page, there's the Whispering Gallery Plus Colorist Society. You can check out the Whispering Gallery I Spy, a meditative coloring page, Season 7, Episode 2. You can join the Whispering Gallery Meditative Colorists Society for a quiet mystery meditation. This printable, ready for the tablet or iPad coloring page invites you into a Baroque garden of curious details and artful clues. Inspired by the world of Rembrandt, with historical oddities, visual riddles, designed as a companion to Season 7, Episode 2. This page is perfect for anyone who loves to color mindfully while letting your imagination wander. Looking closely at the page, is that Rembrandt himself peeking in from the side? From tulips and windmills, a nod to Rembrandt's father's mill, to mushrooms, fluffy peony, and feathers. This scene is full of things to find, question, and quietly just enjoy. There are things you'll find only when you slow down and look twice. The page is available to download on our Patreon site, and it was created lovingly by me, Suzanne, just for you. There is a list on the Patreon page of I Spy elements to look for, like tulips, mushrooms, a death moth, etc. The piano music, when I was talking about the Colorist Society for the Whispering Gallery, was played by me. Here's a little bit of information about the song. I was playing the piano on a Yamaha Clavinova. The clunks you hear as I'm playing are weighted keys. It feels like a grand piano when playing it, but it doesn't look like one. It's smaller than an upright, just kind of like a digital keyboard you'd see with the synthesizer. So the name of the song was Stars and Butterflies by Dario Marianelli. From the Pride and Prejudice music from the motion picture soundtrack, piano solo book. You'll find the credits for other audio in the show notes. With a special thank you to the audio engineers at Freesound.